It is 8:34 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is the 30th day of January 2026. This is episode 1247 of Bitcoin and the Dawn. Gonna wash some dishes. I'll tell you what the hell that's all about here in a sec. And then we're gonna continue to talk about washing the dishes, because there's two sides to this story as to this Fed chairman nominee that Orange Man has. Half the news story says he's good for Bitcoin, and the other half says that he doesn't like Bitcoin. We're gonna tell you both sides of the story here, and you can choose. And then I've got a brief 2.5-minute clip of the guy actually talking about Bitcoin. And we'll play that right after those two news stories so that you can make a determination through his voice intonations, which are very, very important, by the way, as to what you think he might be thinking about Bitcoin. Because he talks for 2 minutes about Bitcoin, not crypto, although I'm sure he actually slips that word in there. It's mostly actually about Bitcoin and his thoughts on Bitcoin. Okay, so we're going to get into all of this washing the dishes crap. And then Binance wants to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin with a particular kind of fund. And then the DOJ has finalized yet another crypto forfeiture in another mixer case. But this one is rather old and we've probably all forgotten about it. So I'm going to bring it back up because, well, a judge has ruled. And then Amboos. If you don't know what Amboos is, you will by the end of today's show. They've unveiled a Lightning native P2P platform for Bitcoin and stablecoin swaps. They were talking about it earlier. I gave you the news story then. Things have apparently come to fruition. And then in part 2 of the news that you can use, Democrats, they want some answers on DOJ deputies' crypto holdings and the DOJ's enforcement retreat on crypto. Seems like they're looking at a conflict of interest. Hey, look, here's the thing. I don't like conflicts of interest. However, I've got to separate out what's a conflict of interest and what's just, hey, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, dude. For instance, I actually do have a problem with Orange Man and his family being as involved in their stable coin, their meme coins, as involved as they are, given that Don is the president of the United States and he kind of is picking people that can enforce or look the other way on some of this stuff, not just his family, but just crypto in general, right? That's a conflict of interest. I truly believe that. But this guy, a deputy DOJ guy who just happens to have crypto, okay, maybe they've got a point. But when do we start to relax? Like, for instance, should Jerome Powell not be allowed to have any money? Like US dollars? Or not Treasury Secretary, sorry, the Fed guy, Jerome Powell. Should the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, should he not be able to have dollars? Because wouldn't that be a conflict of interest? You see how sticky this gets? You know, we can push conflict of interest too far. So we'll see if the Democrats are pushing too far on this one. Paul Atkins, the SEC chair, apparently is going to go to Vegas. We'll talk about it. And the crypto market structure bill has advanced. And then, yes, I know I'm going to end the show and the week with a story about Ethereum. And we're going to go back in time a little bit to the DAO hack. But new events have come to light. But first, the Orange Man. President Donald Trump nominates Kevin Warsh as the Fed chair. Yay, Jamie Crawley for CoinDesk has this one. President Donald Trump nominated Kevin Warsh to be the new chair of the Federal Reserve. Yay. The president confirmed his pick in a post on Truth Social on Friday to replace the incumbent Jerome Powell when his term ends in May. Warsh served on the U.S. Central Bank's Board of Governors between 2006 and 2011, and he's the youngest person to ever do so. He was considered the front runner to be Trump's pick, something which may have played a part in Bitcoin's dive to nearly $81,000 late Thursday as odds of Warsh's nomination spiked on betting sites such as Kalshi and Polymarket. Warsh was an investor in a cryptocurrency project called Basis, which describes itself as an algorithmic central bank. Oh, this doesn't sound good. He also served as an advisor for Electric Capital, a venture capital firm focused on crypto, blockchain, and fintech. However, his appointment has considered by some to be bearish for risk assets such as Bitcoin, given his emphasis on monetary discipline, which could mean higher real interest rates. Bitcoin enjoyed a brief 0.7% lift immediately after Trump's announcement before returning to the 82,600 mark it sat at previously, according to CoinDesk data. Okay, so there we go. There's the announcement. Warsh is Trump's guy. But these guys are saying, well, this could be bad for Bitcoin. Okay, from the very same outfit, CoinDesk, we have this one, right? Because, it sounds to me like the first story did highlight the fact that he's involved in crypto. And a lot of other news stories are talking about, hey, this is going to be good for Bitcoin. Now, that story was equal, right? It was basically saying, yeah, but he likes strong monetary policy for the US dollar. And even though he did all these things, he likes this monetary policy. So this second story maybe will dive a little bit deeper into why the Fed contender, Kevin Warsh, is seen as bearish for Bitcoin. This one is Omkar Godbole writing for CoinDesk, and he says that on Thursday, President Donald Trump said he will announce his pick for the U.S. Federal Reserve chair to replace incumbent Jerome Powell after the latter's term ends in May. While nothing is confirmed yet, although this story, was obviously written first because, yes, Warsh has indeed been selected as the contender for the Fed chair. So this one was written. So understand the language that you're going to hear in this may suggest that nothing's been done yet. It has. This was just written before Trump made the announcement. Anyway, while nothing is confirmed yet, reports suggest the Trump administration is preparing to nominate Kevin Warsh, who served on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors from 2006 to 11. Warsh has occasionally praised cryptocurrencies, yet Bitcoin plunged late Thursday to near 81,000 lows as his odds spiked on betting sites. Quote, markets generally view a resurgence of Warsh's influence as bearish for Bitcoin, as his emphasis on monetary discipline, higher real rates, and reduced liquidity frames crypto not as a hedge against debasement, but as a speculative excess that fades when easy money is withdrawn, said Marcus Thielen, founder of 10x Research. Higher real interest rates mean the actual cost of borrowing money after accounting for inflation is elevated. Think of it as the true interest rate that hits your finances harder. When real rates are elevated, businesses and investors typically scale back exposure to risky investments such as Bitcoin. Warsh's track record is adding fuel to the fire. During the global financial crisis that lasted from December 2007 to June of 2009, Warsh repeatedly cited inflation risks even as the global economy teetered on the brink of a full-blown deflation. For instance, in September of 2008, the month when Lehman Brothers collapsed, Warsh said, I'm still not ready to relinquish my concerns on the inflation front. 7 months later, when the Fed's preferred inflation measure was at 0.8% and the jobless rate at 9%, he said, quote, I continue to be more worried about upside risks to inflation than downside risks, end quote. Over the years, many observers have argued that Warsh's hawkishness and failure to acknowledge deflation risks exacerbated the crisis. Quote, from this perspective, his approach would likely have resulted in higher unemployment, slower recoveries, and greater deflation risk during the 2010s, Thielen said. All this makes a potential Warsh pick as ironic, as the former Fed governor's hawkish record clashes sharply with Trump's reflationary pro-risk asset playbook. Trump has repeatedly bashed Powell, often resorting to personal attacks for keeping rates elevated and killing the economy. The president has stressed the need for rapid rate cuts, calling for interest rates to be as low as 1% from the present window of 3.5 to 3.75%. Hence, several observers say Warsh is the wrong pick for the Fed that's expected to toe Trump's line. Quote, Kevin Warsh has been a monetary policy hawk his entire career. And most importantly, during a time when the labor markets fell out of bed, his dovishness today stems from convenience. The president risks getting duped, Renaissance Macro Research said on X. Quote, I read the FOMAC transcripts during the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. His quotes scared me, end quote, Bloomberg's chief U.S. economist Anna Wong said. Thankfully, even as Fed chair, Warsh cannot dictate rates alone as the Board of Governors votes collectively, diluting any single voice. It remains to be seen if Trump goes ahead with Warsh. Until then, his hawkish history may keep spooking risk assets, bolstering the dollar in the interim. Now, let's hear directly from the man himself about Bitcoin, Kevin Warsh.
You made reference to Bitcoin, and I thought I heard a little bit of condescension that people are buying Bitcoin and these things.
But doesn't it, Charlie Munger, this is 2 or 3 years before he died, Charlie Munger attacked Bitcoin. He called it evil, in part because it would begin to undermine the Fed's ability to manage the economy.
Or it could provide market discipline. Or it could tell the world that things need to be fixed.
Bitcoin does not make you nervous.
Bitcoin does not make me nervous. I can hearken back to a dinner I had here in 2011 with someone who is another guest on your show. I won't say his name. I just did Mark Andreessen, who showed me the white paper. That was the original white paper. I wish I had understood as clearly as he did how transformative Bitcoin and this new technology would be. Bitcoin doesn't trouble me. I think of it as an important asset that can help inform policymakers when they're doing things right and wrong. It is not a substitute to the dollar. I think it can often be a very good policeman for policy. And if I were to speak more broadly to what did Charlie Munger and others perhaps have in mind, there is a proliferation of securities that go under all sorts of names. Many, if not most of them, are not worth what they might be being traded for. So what did Charlie say, and maybe his pal Warren say? There's the innovators, the imitators, and the incompetents. They're real innovators that are happening in and around that new technology. And what I would try to impart towards businesses and bankers is that the underlying technology that Mark showed me in that white paper, or tried to show me in that white paper, it's just software. It's just the newest, coolest software that will provide us an ability to do things that we could never have done before. Can the software be used for good and evil? Yes, both, like all software. Right. So I don't cast aspersions like that. If there's a final point, it's these technologies are being built here. I don't just mean on Stanford campus. I believe in the United States. And the world's most talented engineers from China and Europe and everywhere, they come to the United States even now to try to build this stuff. And my view is by building it here, that gives us an opportunity to be more productive and create something very special over the next decade.
It sounds to me like Kevin Warsh is going to try to take a tightrope stance on Bitcoin. And here's what I mean by that. The guy who wants to hire him, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, by the way, he is your president, whether you like it or not. Okay, let's stop being foolish for all the people. He's not my president, or on the other side, the people that were like, Biden's not my president. Yeah, he was. He sucked. I didn't like him, but he was my president. Whatever. So Trump likes Bitcoin. That's what he said. That's how he got voted into office. And if he's anywhere close to as smart as I think Trump is, he's going to continue to toe that line because midterms are coming up. And right now, shit ain't looking real good for his party. Okay, that's just fact. So he's got this guy, Kevin Warsh, who's saying, I love Bitcoin. It's great. I'm almost honestly impressed that he didn't say, this digital ledger technology is just spiffy, something like that. He didn't say that. However, he also said, on the hawkish side of his comments was, it'll never replace the US dollar. Okay, well, we kind of knew that if Bitcoin did replace the US dollar, that it would be decades in the making. And that is still the truth, right? That is still true. However, I don't think this guy is as hawkish on Bitcoin as people are being led to believe. It certainly isn't worth a 10% dump on the market. And I'm seeing more and more chatter that that's what happened. But that still doesn't explain why gold got fucking pummeled. Like 6% loss yesterday. Of course, alongside Bitcoin's 10% loss, Peter Schiff is still dancing on Bitcoin's grave, but everybody got hammered yesterday. Now, energy has made quite the comeback, but gold and Bitcoin and silver are still struggling down there, kind of where they were, or at least as far as I know. Well, God only knows what's happened since I last checked the markets, all of 16 and a half minutes ago. When we get to the middle of the show, we'll find out what it's doing now. But everything got hammered. So I think something else happened, although I don't know what it was. There's speculation that, it's everybody got kind of shifty about the whole AI bubble thing, and they punched out, and a lot of people did punch out of AI and Nvidia and a whole bunch of stuff, and that caused rolling liquidity losses, or not liquidity, that caused rolling long losses. A whole bunch of people got washed out of their trades, yada, 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 and it just kind of cascaded from there. Warsh plays into it, but I just don't think that he's the reason why Bitcoin fell, because if Bitcoin fell, then gold should not have fallen if it was just because of Kevin Warsh. So you heard what he had to say about Bitcoin. Sure, it's only this one 2.5, 3 minute clip, but there may be enough for you to determine what do you think? What do you think Kevin really thinks about Bitcoin? So let's move on and get on to Binance, because, tick tock, next block, time is a ticking. Binance pledges $1 billion fund to Bitcoin as market tanks to months low. Oh my God, months low. Danny Park writing for The Block. Binance announced that it will convert $1 billion in stablecoin reserves held in its Secure Asset Fund for Users, aka SAFU, entirely into Bitcoin over the next 30 days. Now, we'll see. In an open letter published Friday, Binance said this decision was made to support the industry through market cycles and periods of uncertainty, emphasizing its continued belief in Bitcoin's long-term value. SAFU was established to protect users against losses from unexpected incidents like hacks or platform issues. To address potential volatility from holding Bitcoin instead of stablecoins, Binance said it will conduct regular audits and rebalancing of the fund based on market value. Quote, if the fund's market value falls below $800 million due to Bitcoin price fluctuations, Binance will rebalance the fund to restore its value to $1 billion, the exchange wrote. This decision arrives amid a sharp downturn in Bitcoin's price. Oh my God, the humanity. According to the Block's Bitcoin price page, the world's largest cryptocurrency fell 7% in the past 24 hours to 82,000, marking its lowest level since November of last year. The sell-off has been driven by various factors, including rotations into precious metals like gold and silver, geopolitical tensions such as U.S. tariff announcements, a broader risk-off sentiment in the equities market, and continued outflows from Bitcoin exchange-traded funds. You forgot to mention Kevin Warsh. Anyway, other cryptocurrencies have followed suit, with shitcoins down various percentage points, and I don't give a shit. I'm not even gonna waste my time. If I got to talk about Ether, it's going to be at the end of the show when we talk about the DAO hack and what some idiot wants to do with the money that was never actually spoken for when they recovered the funds by rolling back the chain. I want to make sure everybody understands that Ether's entire blockchain got rolled back so that people that lost money that were friends of Vitalik Buterin wouldn't lose their money. That's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with Ether, and that's the only reason why I'm bringing up today's last bit of news. But before we do that, it's a very chocolate day here in Eastern Washington, and Bitcoin beans, proof of cacao. That's right, invest in your health, just like you invest in Bitcoin. Cacao is a nutrient-dense superfood. It's rich in magnesium, antioxidants, and theobromine for natural energy and mood support. I got to pause. You know how, like, any guys out there that's got women in their life and they love chocolate? There's a reason for that. There's an actual God-given reason for the fact that women have figured out if you're kind of in a bad mood or you kind of feeling a little sad, eat some chocolate. Well, the reason is theobromine, or is it theobromine, right? Food, sort of like food of the gods kind of thing. It's a thing. It's an actual chemical. It has a chemical structure. You can go look it up on Google, right? It's kind of a neurotransmitter, a little bit. Okay, it does all kinds of neat stuff. I don't want to get into it now, but that's why. If you ever wondered why is it that women, when they get in a bad mood, they want chocolate? That's why. They figured it out. They don't know about theobromine, or at least some of them, some of them do. Probably most don't, because most people actually have no idea how the hell chemistry actually works, and that's okay. I'm just saying, it took women to figure out, hey, if I eat this thing, I actually feel better. It's not bullshit. It's an actual physiological reaction. Anyway, chocolate, you can get it in 1 pound blocks of 100% pure cacao grown regeneratively in Colombia, and you pay for it in Bitcoin. There's no chemicals, there's no fiat, there's no middlemen. It's just real food sourced with integrity and exchanged through proof of work. Go to bitcoinbeans.co, not com, bitcoinbeans.co. Think company. bitcoinbeans.co. Make certain you use the code BitcoinAnd, and you will receive a 5% discount on your 1 pound block. Not a brick, a block. You get a 1 pound block of chocolate. This stuff looks freaking fantastic. I still have yet to receive. I know he sent me some chocolate, but it's coming from Colombia, and God only knows where it is in the mail. I still haven't gotten it yet. I am chomping at the bit to try this chocolate because I'm looking at pictures on the website bitcoinbeans.co. This stuff looks freaking fantastic. Go to bitcoinbeans.co. That's bitcoinbeans.co. Use BitcoinAnd as the coupon code for 5% off your entire purchase. And you're only going to get that here on the Circle P. It's where I bring plebs just like you with goods and services to plebs just like you who want to buy said goods and services, but you will be buying it in Bitcoin, because if you ain't selling it in Bitcoin, you're not in the Circle P. The DOJ finalizes $400 million crypto forfeiture in the Helix Bitcoin mixer case. Cointelegraph bringing it to you. The United States Department of Justice finalized the forfeiture of over $400 million in cryptocurrency and other assets tied to Helix, an early Bitcoin-era dark net mixing service, according to a statement. The assets received from a guy named Larry Harmon, the operator of Helix, which processed transactions between the years 2014, that's the year before I even heard about Bitcoin, and 2017. The crypto mixer was designed to obscure the source and destination of Bitcoin that was linked to dark net markets. The forfeiture follows a January 21st order by the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. court, formally transferring ownership of the assets to the United States government. The final court order gives the government legal title to the seized digital assets, real estate, and financial assets connected to Helix operations. The development marks the legal endpoint for one of the most significant early Bitcoin mixer prosecutions to move through U.S. courts. The case illustrates how major crypto-related enforcement actions can take years to fully resolve. Clearly, it's been like 10 years, right? Even after criminal conduct has ended. According to the DOJ, Helix processed at least 350,000 Bitcoin during its operation, worth about $300 million at the time of the transactions. Not today, $300 million at the time those transactions were made, from the years of 2014 through 2017. Prosecutors linked the activity to darknet drug markets, seeking to launder their illegal, ill-gotten gains. Harman also operated Grams, a search engine designed to support major darknet markets active at the time. Investigators told Helix application programming interface allowed marketplaces to integrate the mixer directly into their Bitcoin withdrawal systems, enabling large-scale laundering activity. The humanity. The DOJ said investigators traced tens of millions from darknet market to Helix. Forfeiture finalized years after sentencing. Apparently, he was already sentenced. Harman was arrested in February of 2020. Then he pleaded guilty in August of 2021 to conspiracy to commit money laundering. He was sentenced in November 2024 to 3 years in prison. Pause that shit right now. The dude pled guilty to conspiracy to commit money laundering. He gets 3 years. Why am I freaking out? Well, I'm thinking of Samurai guys. They had 2 charges against him, Rodriguez and Hill. They had 2 charges standing against them: money laundering and being a non-licensed money transmitter. Their plea deal went like this: they pled guilty to the money transmission, the not having a money transmitter license, right? They pled guilty to that so that the money laundering charge would be dropped, because if it was not dropped, they would have been facing 25 years in prison on that charge alone, plus another 5 maximum potential years for the money transmission license. Now, Rodriguez got 5 and Hill got 4 years. This guy pleads guilty to money laundering and he gets 3 years. What the fuck? I'm sorry, man. That shit ain't fair. Yeah, I know, life ain't fair. No, you know what? Screw it. Sometimes you just got to call a spade a spade. That shit isn't fair. It doesn't even make sense. For fuck's sake. Anyway, at the time, the court ordered Harman to forfeit assets valued at more than $400 million, and last week's order finalized that forfeiture, transferring clear legal title to the U.S. government. As previously reported by Cointelegraph, his sentence was reduced after, he cooperated with investigators, including testifying in the Bitcoin fog case against Roman Sterlingov. What did he, it makes me wonder how he testified. I mean, was he friends with Roman? Were they palling around? Was Roman building, Roman, as far as we know, had nothing to do with Bitcoin fog. He just used it. He didn't build it. And he clearly doesn't run it, because guess what? Bitcoin fog is still running and Roman Sterlingov is in prison. This smells bad to me. I'm sorry. It just does. At the end of the day, my question remains this: how much of this shit is Bitcoin and how much of that seized asset, the Bitcoin part, is going into the strategic Bitcoin reserve, where we clearly keep all of the United States federal government's ill-gotten gains, because that's theft. Sorry. I'm sorry. It is. It's theft. It just is. Now, moving on before I completely lose all my gaskets, Amboos reveals Lightning native P2P platform called RailsX for Bitcoin and stablecoin swaps. This is out of the block. It's written by Brian Denga. At the Plan B forum in El Salvador on Friday, Amboos Technologies introduced RailsX, a peer-to-peer trading platform built natively on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. RailsX enables atomic cross-asset swaps through circular self-payments on Lightning channels, allowing Bitcoin and stablecoin holders to transact directly while retaining custody, Amboos said in a statement. The platform combines Amboos's liquidity marketplace called Magma with Taproot assets to facilitate decentralized trading, which the company said aligns with its interpretation of U.S. Draft Clarity Act legislation. And according to the statement, RailsX works in conjunction with Amboos's earlier self-custodial Bitcoin yield product, Rails, which launched in May of 2025. Combined, the platform aims to create a fuller ecosystem with Lightning liquidity providers, or for Lightning liquidity providers. Additionally, in partnership with Magnolia and Bring In, that's an interesting name, Rails is designed to support connections to traditional banking rails in the US and Europe for fiat conversions. Amboos said this could eventually enable access to global foreign exchange flows, which are estimated at roughly 9.5 trillion in daily volume. Quote, the phrase about money printing is also true for Bitcoin technology. Lynn Alden said it best. Nothing stops this train. RailsX represents the next unstoppable step in Bitcoin's evolution, delivering true financial freedom to users worldwide through scalable P2P trading and self-custody, Amboos's CEO Jesse Schrader said in a statement. The announcement follows recent public commentary from industry leaders, including Tether CEO Paolo Ardoino and Lightning Lab CEO Elizabeth Stark, who have discussed efforts to bring stablecoins back to Bitcoin using Taproot assets. The move adds to Amboos's expansion since the project raised $4 million in seed funding from Stillmark, a leading Bitcoin native venture capital firm, in 2023. The round also included participation from Valor Equity Partners, Draper Associates, of course, Fulgur Ventures, which is everywhere all the time and has been since God only knows how long ago, and Ride Wave Ventures. The company's product suite has grown since that raise. In addition to launching Rails in December 2023, Amboos launched Ghost addresses to help combat custodial Bitcoin Lightning wallet reliance, the block previously reported. And meanwhile, the broader Lightning network has seen significant growth in recent months. According to the block's data dashboard, the network's total US dollar capacity exceeded $500 million earlier in January, while its Bitcoin capacity reached a peak of approximately 5,770 just this month. That Bitcoin capacity represents a 55% increase from a low of around 3,730 Bitcoin recorded in August of last year. So Amboos, they really didn't explain what Amboos is. The best way to figure out what Amboos is go to Amboos. I don't think it's .com, but nope, it's not. Hold on. Nope. Amboos.com is, something to do with medical stuff. That's interesting. Hold on. Because Amboos has been around for a while. You should probably know about it. And do Amboos.com. No. Amboos.com. Amboos. Hold on. Amboos. Lightning. Yeah, Amboos.space. Go to Amboos.space. It's essentially it's a way to track, manage, ask for, and get Lightning node liquidity. You can host a Lightning node with them, or they can help your self-hosted Lightning node get liquidity, manage liquidity, and do all that stuff. A lot of people don't like Amboos because they go, well, you automatically decloak your Lightning node and all your Lightning channels. I don't think that's necessarily true, but it is another layer of slight decloaking. That part cannot be denied. However, if you don't want to manage liquidity yourself because you don't know how, or you don't want to deal with the headache, Amboos is for you, man. I'm just saying. No, they're not. They don't even know if I exist. They are not a sponsor. It's just that Amboos has been in the space for a long, long time. I like them. I trust them. Why the hell not? Well, let's run the numbers. CNBC Futures and Commodities. Oh my God, live. President Trump is signing executive orders. Wow. He's signing them. He's at a desk. He's got a stack of them. He's signing some of those executive orders. Meanwhile, Brent North Sea is up 0.18% to $70.84 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate is up a quarter to 65.58. Natural gas is up almost 10 full points, back to $4.30 per 1,000 cubic feet. Gasoline is up a half to $1.93 a gallon. And Murban crude, not sure why, but it has taken a massive hit. 4 points to the downside, very much below both Brent North Sea and West Texas Intermediate, which is unusual because it is a high quality light sweet crude oil. Anyway, it's down to 66.96 cents a barrel. Shiny metal rocks getting wiped the fuck out. Palladium down a row of sticks, 11.1%. Gold down 6.5%. Back below $5,000 you go, $4,970 an ounce. Platinum down 15%, silver down 18.25%, back to 93.47. Copper is down 4 points. I don't think I'm going to like looking at the Bitcoin price at this point. Whatever. Cocoa is the only one in the green in agriculture today. It is up a quarter. Everything else is in the red, including coffee, which is the biggest loser at 3.66% to the downside. Live cattle in the green, 0.18%. Lean hogs are down a tenth, and feeder cattle are down 0.79%. S&P is down 0.69. NASDAQ is down a point. Dow is down a point, and the S&P Mini is down 1.25. And here we go. $82,620 is now, $1.65 trillion market cap. Yet, we can actually buy more gold than we could yesterday. 16.6 ounces of shiny metal rocks to be had for our one Bitcoin, of which there are 19,982,154.28. And average fees per block are actually high. 0.03 BTC taken in fees on a per block basis. There's, I don't know, not that many blocks. It's about like 37 blocks carrying 50,000 unconfirmed transactions waiting to clear at high priority rates of 3 sats per VByte. Low priorities get you in at 1. Yes, we have lost more hash rate. 858 exahashes per second is the hash rate on the Bitcoin network, securing the Bitcoin network so far. And honestly, I don't know why everybody's freaking out. Well, some people are freaking out. Other people have figured it out. This does not matter. Good luck trying to roll back the chain at 858 exahashes per second. Yes, I know there's 6 major miners and they're going to collude. Why haven't they done so? It's been years. My watch is running out of batteries, dude. I'm waiting for them to collude. I'm waiting for them to fuck up the golden goose that lays the golden egg. You know, I'm waiting for it. Still hasn't happened yet. Just saying. From Powell's Playground, yesterday's episode of Bitcoin and something's going on with Fountain.fm's website. I am not able to see the boosts. I am re-upping, or there we go. I refreshed it and now it works. Nostr Gang with a short row of sticks says, thank you. No, thank you, buddy. Let's see here. Nick Dose with 140 sats says, cheers. I think that's it. Yep, those are the only two boosts that I got. Those are the only two boosts that I need to read. That's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you can use. Democrats press the DOJ, or, well, the Department of Justice deputy, over crypto holdings and the enforcement retreat. Vismaya V has got it for decrypt.co. 6 Democratic senators have accused Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche of violating conflict of interest laws by dismantling crypto enforcement while holding substantial digital assets. In a letter sent on Wednesday, Senators Mazie Hirono, Richard Durbin, of course, Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, Sheldon Whitehouse, Christopher Coons, and Richard Blumenthal alleged that Blanche's actions may have violated federal conflict of interest law, citing financial disclosures showing he held between $158,000 and $470,000 worth of cryptocurrency when he issued a policy memo easing the oversight of the industry. Let's pause. If I have $10 million US in my bank account and I'm the Treasury Secretary and I say something that makes the value of the dollar increase overseas, am I in violation of federal conflict of interest law? If I'm the Fed chairman and I do something with interest rates that are in my favor when I hold millions of dollars in US dollars, am I violating conflict of interest law? It is a sticky question. It is not that easy to answer, right? So, but here's the other thing. This is being done. We got 9 months to go for midterm elections. And I'm already hearing, because of this, I'm already seeing that the Democrats are feeling emboldened, empowered. They see victory on the horizon for themselves. And if they fucking win in the midterms, this is going to be a shit show for Bitcoin. It just is. They do not like the banks having lost control of their power base, even though Elizabeth Warren has always said that she fights the big banks. That is a lie. And why would you expect her to ever tell the fucking truth? She lied about her genetic heritage. She bold-faced lied about it multiple times, on multiple occasions, in multiple media formats. She said she was 1/4 Cherokee or something like that. And we come to find out through her own admission that that was a lie. However, while she was lying and people believed her, she got in to be able to teach at Harvard for a really inflated amount of money, right? People felt sorry for her because she's Native American. She got all kinds of shit because she was floating this lie. Why would you expect her to tell the truth about anything? She is 100% for the big banks. Just like Mitch McConnell is 100% for the big banks. If you think that there is a red and blue color difference here, then you are colorblind. These guys are all brown, as in logs of shit brown. All of them suck. None of them like you. They only like themselves and each other because they're a bunch of narcissists. And if you want to put your future in the hands of a narcissist, be my guest. Otherwise, buy Bitcoin. But still, the midterms are coming up, and I already see that they see victory on the horizon. So figure it out, guys. The lawmakers pointed to 18 USC 208A, which prohibits executive branch officials from participating in decisions that could affect their personal financial interest. Quote, at the very least, you had a glaring conflict of interest and should have recused yourself, they wrote. Blanche allegedly held the crypto in Bitcoin and Ethereum when he issued last year's memo titled Ending Regulation by Prosecution, despite promising to divest as soon as practicable in February of 2025. The Deputy Attorney General's memo disbanded the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team, declaring the DOJ would no longer pursue criminal cases against crypto exchanges, mixing services, or cold wallet holders for acts of their end users or unwitting violations of regulations. Rather than fully liquidating his holdings, though, Blanche sold or transferred his crypto assets to relatives, raising concerns that the divestment failed to eliminate potential financial influence, the senators allege. The letter demanded that Blanche explain what was appropriately flagged, addressed, and cleared in advance, provide records of communication with crypto representatives between March 5th and April 7th, and why he waited until May 31st to divest. The senators set a February 11 deadline for Blanche's response. Quote, "It is not automatically improper for a senior DOJ official to hold some crypto, but it becomes inherently risky when that same official is personally dialing up or down crypto enforcement while sitting on a sizable bag." Hong Kong Web3 Association co-chair Joshua Chu told Decrypt, quote, "Against a backdrop of perfectly timed trades, an ethics investigation is the bare minimum," he added. Pause. Perfectly timed trades. Against a backdrop of perfectly timed trades. Who else has perfectly timed trades? That would be Elizabeth Warren at $65 million of wealth on a government and Harvard, paycheck. And Harvard pays well, but they don't pay that well. And who's that other chick? Nancy Pelosi, who beat out Warren Buffett for years on her prowess behind a trading desk, even though was a U.S. House of Representative. Yeah, so why are we looking at those perfectly timed trades? I think all of these people have a lot of questions to answer, not only to each other, but to themselves. But most importantly, to us. I want to know every trade execution that Senator Elizabeth Warren has ever done. I want a complete transcript of every trade execution that Nancy Pelosi has ever done. And yeah, we can pick on some of the Republicans too. That goes alongside all this. I'm just saying Nancy Pelosi is the most fucking egregious actor in this entire goddamn play. I think she's worth $160 million. She ain't getting that on a 40-year government career. I'm sorry, not without insider trading. And she had front row seats to all the information that she was ever going to need to execute, quote unquote, perfectly timed trades. I'm sorry, these are facts. You may be listening to me and you're a Democrat and you love Nancy Pelosi and she can do no wrong. Oh, yes, she can. Does she have to wipe herself after she uses the bathroom? Huh? Does bear shit in the woods? Is she human? Does she eat? Does she wear clothes? Does she drive a car? Well, maybe she doesn't drive a car, but does she walk on two legs? Does she have hair that she goes and gets done at a hairdresser? Yes, all of these things are true. She's a human being. She is not above, she's not above the law, but she's not also above being corruptible. Every human on the face of the planet is corruptible, but she is very corrupt. And I want to see those trade executions, the time of day, the day of the year, against what policy, what information was she privy to at that time? Both of them, for Warren and Pelosi. I want timelines. What did they trade versus what were they sitting in hearings for? What meetings were they having? I want to know. Because I'll bet you if I ran both those timelines just through simple chat GPT, it would be going, there is an 85% correlation for these perfectly timed trades that are completely 100% related to who she was talking to that day. I'll guarantee it. I guarantee it. Anyway, you can almost see the 2026 midterms from here. If DOJ crypto enforcement is already entangled with insider-style flows and prediction market bets, Chu said, warning it would spiral into crypto-linked intel leaks, impeachment talk, and even treason claims in late 2026 and early 2027. The senators said that they had warned in their prior letter that disbanding the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team and taking a hands-off approach to crypto platforms would enable sanctions evasion, drug trafficking, scams, and of course, the children. Somebody think of the children because they list child exploitation. Quote, unfortunately, our predictions have proven correct, the senator said, citing a January 2026 Chainalysis report that showed illicit crypto activity surged 162% last year, aligning their concerns about national security risks. Quote, while this story has drawn attention because it involves digital assets, the underlying issue isn't unique to cryptocurrency. It's about transparency and potential conflicts of interest, said Joe Cicolo, founder and president of BitAML. Quote, public officials routinely hold a wide range of assets from real estate to individual stocks and business interests. Yeah, well, this is true. Again, that goes back to one of my, major questions about this. How the hell are you supposed to be a senator, a president, a vice president, sit in the House of Representatives? How are you able to do anything if everything is clearly a conflict of interest? I mean, let's say this. Let's say one of your favorite senators successfully gets a bill all the way to the president's desk and he signs it into law, and it somehow or another drops all grocery prices. Like price fixing. Well, price controls. I don't want it. I'm just saying, let's say they do that. Well, they eat food. How's that not a conflict of interest? Can they be arrested? Can they be impeached? See, when I talk about conflict of interest, in the back of my mind, I'm always saying, but is it? I actually do think that President Trump has a conflict of interest issue. Is it actionable is another question entirely. And that goes for a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of shit. It's clearly a conflict of interest. That actually should be played out in the court of public opinion and not, I don't know, exactly force you to sell all your shit. Because if I want to become a senator, do I have to sell all my Bitcoin? Or am I forever and yawn not allowed to engage in any legislative matters involving Bitcoin? I don't know, man. This whole thing is confusing because how much can you track back across the last 175 years of legislation put in place by people who have, in one way, shape, form, fashion, or another, some vested interest in the outcome of that legislation? If that's true, then everybody has a conflict of interest 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 24/7. It's just, it hurts my brain. It does. It hurts my brain. So here's what's going to hurt my brain even more. We've got the Bitcoin conference back in Las Vegas, and SEC Chair Paul Atkins is going to make history as the first sitting chairman to speak at that conference. I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal, but hell. By the way, this is out of Bitcoin Magazine and written by Micah Zimmerman. In somewhat of a pivotal moment for Bitcoin and U.S. crypto policy, SEC Chairman Paul Atkins is set to speak at the Bitcoin 2026 conference in Las Vegas. This will mark the first time a sitting SEC chair has been invited to the flagship event, underscoring how digital assets have regained prominence in the national regulatory conversation. The event is the world's largest Bitcoin conference, will take place April 27th through the 29th, 2026, at the Venetian in Las Vegas. Atkins' invitation comes during a dramatic shift in U.S. crypto policy leadership. Since being appointed chairman in 2025, he has signaled a departure from a decade of ambiguity and enforcement-driven oversight that many in the industry say stifled innovation. Atkins has repeatedly emphasized that clear, workable regulations are crucial to nurture digital asset markets. He has publicly stated that most crypto tokens do not qualify as securities under existing law, and that regulatory clarity, not litigation, should define the future landscape for digital assets, a sharp contrast with the previous era of, quote, regulation by enforcement. Earlier today, the U.S. Senate Agriculture Committee advanced its version of the crypto market legislation in a 12-11 vote. And we're going to have more about that story right now. Also from Micah Zimmerman out of Bitcoin Magazine, crypto market structure bill advances through the Senate Ag Committee. No Democrats vote in favor of. Guys, I'm telling you, the Democrats see victory on the horizon. And if Trump doesn't do something, and I mean something fucking spectacular, he's going to lose midterms. He's probably not going to run for a quote unquote third term because technically it would be contested, but technically the Constitution says you can be president for 2 terms consecutive. He has not served 2 consecutive terms. Now, I don't think this is going to happen. I think Don is just going to, he's old, man. He wants to go hang out and play golf. He doesn't want to dick around with all these jackhammers sitting in freaking suits. You know, I wouldn't either. That's why I don't go to Washington. Anyway, I'm just saying, if he doesn't get his shit together, loses midterms, and then Vance loses the presidency because he's probably going to run for president. He'll be endorsed by Donald Trump. If AOC gets in, or God forbid, whatever that drunkard's name was, I can't remember what Kamala Harris, then we've got major problems, to the point that it would be the first time that I would consider moving, but not because she's not my president, but because I'm tired of everybody telling me how poor I have to be. I'm sick of it, man. I'm seeing all kinds of videos out of like Central American countries and a couple of South American countries of Bitcoiners that have gone down there and said, fuck it, I'm never coming home. They walk around barefoot, shirtless all day long. They look great. They're getting sun. They're actually living a life instead of always living in fear and darkness, which is what people do in the West. You know, maybe we were built to not eat that much. Maybe we were built to surf a lot. Maybe we were built to make sure that we had a roof over our heads, but maybe we built it ourselves on land that is not like so prohibitively expensive that we can't even do that. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm ranting a little bit, but in a narrowly divided party line vote, the U.S. Senate Agriculture Committee advanced its version of crypto market legislation in a 12-11 vote on Thursday, marking a milestone in congressional efforts to finally legislate comprehensive crypto market structure rules. Every single Democrat on the committee opposed the motion, citing substantive disagreements over ethics provisions, consumer protections, and the independence of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And they did not mention saving the children, so I'll say that too. They were going to save the children. Chairman Senator John Boozman opened the markup by touting months of negotiations and substantive, quote, cordial conversations, but acknowledged that fundamental policy disagreements remain. Quote, now it's time to move this process forward, Boozman said, emphasizing the need to flesh out a regulatory regime for digital commodity intermediaries under the CFTC's oversight. This discussion emerged from the Agricultural Committee's updated legislative text release on January 21st, which builds on a bipartisan discussion draft issued in November and on the House-passed Digital Asset Market Clarity Act of 2025. The legislation aims to finally settle long-standing questions about how digital assets should be regulated in the U.S. by giving the Commodity Futures Trading Commission exclusive jurisdiction over spot markets for digital commodities while leaving securities-related digital assets under the Securities and Exchange Commission. Pausing to say, if tokenized securities are on blockchain and digital commodities are on blockchain, we're going to end up with some weird commingling shit, especially when a digital commodity on a blockchain is somehow or another backed or sistered up with somehow a digital security on the same blockchain. I guarantee you that shit will happen. You will hear about it. But While initial versions of the Ag Committee's language was released jointly by Boozman and Democratic Senator Cory Booker, Thursday's markup showed fracturing along party lines. Well, of course, because we're all enemies now. Booker reminded colleagues that the bipartisan November draft represented one of my better experiences in the Senate, but argued that Republicans abandoned the bipartisan process after Christmas. To be clear, this is a quote, "The product before us today is not the bipartisan draft that we were working on," Booker said. Ranking member Senator Amy Klobuchar indicated that Democrats support the progress that's been made, but stressed that key issues remain unsolved, particularly ethics safeguards for public officials and stronger consumer protections. Several Democrat-led amendments failed on the committee floor. An ethics-focused amendment that would have barred the president, vice president, federal elected officials, and certain family members from profiting off of crypto while in office was defeated. Other Democratic proposals addressing crypto ATM fraud protections also did not pass. Senator Adam Schiff echoed concerns about ethics, urging language that covers all federal officials. Yeah, why don't you look at Elizabeth Warren there, pal? Senator Alyssa Slotkin charged that Republican opposition would be louder if similar provisions targeted past Democratic administrations, alluding to reporting financial gains by the Trump family from crypto assets while in office. Despite all discussions, the meeting ended in a vote roughly 1 hour after deliberations took place. Senator Cynthia Lummis celebrated the deliberation results, posting on X, quote, "Great to see digital asset market structure pass. We are one step closer to getting this legislation to the president's desk, and I look forward to continuing to work closely with my colleagues across the aisle to make America the digital asset capital of the world." A little bit of suit speak right there. So what comes next? Well, it's a procedurally heavy road. The bill must be formally reported, placed on the Senate calendar, and then go through leadership scheduling decisions, potential filibusters, floor amendments, and a 60-vote cloture hurdle before it can pass the Senate with a simple majority. The Senate Banking Committee is also working through legislation which includes controversial issues like stablecoin yield and, of course, tokenization. Progress has been made, So, yeah, it's got a long road to hoe, but I'm actually surprised that they got it through where they've gotten it through, because the last couple of weeks, I've read you a couple of stories that said that this thing's just stalled and they may not even touch it until like the end of February. Well, they're not only touching it, they've got it passed through this committee, so it's on to the next step. Finally up today, Ethereum. If you were around in 2014, 2015, you heard about the DAO hack. And it's kind of been a ghost, a shade, a specter, an evildoer chilling at the heels of Ethereum ever since, because they made the wrong decision. And the fact that they were able to make that decision and affect or at least that the Ethereum architecture was able to allow this decision to be made is scary, right? So let's get into what happens next. It's been years, but Ethereum's oldest crisis has been reborn as a $220 million security fund. Decrypt's Jason Nelson is writing this one. Assets tied to the 2016 collapse of the DAO are being redeployed as a major crypto security endowment nearly a decade after a hack that triggered Ethereum's permanent split. Griff Green, co-founder of Giveth and one of the original signatories overseeing the recovered DAO funds, and DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, DAO. The recovered DAO funds, he said Thursday that he is launching the DAO Security Fund, which plans to deploy about 75,000 ETH worth roughly $220 million to bolster Ethereum security. Speaking on Laura Shin's Unchained podcast, Green said the initiative reflects both the damage and the lasting impact of the DAO hack, which he described as a turning point for Ethereum's security culture. Quote, "The DAO really kickstarted the security industry in Ethereum. Before the DAO hack, there was no audit industry, end quote. The move turns one of Ethereum's earliest and most damaging failures into a long-term source of funding for network security as unclaimed assets from the DAO collapse, once a symbol of crypto's immaturity, are repurposed to protect an ecosystem now securing hundreds of billions of dollars in value. The new fund draws from unclaimed portions of the DAO collapse, hack, while most investors were made whole through a contentious hard fork in 2016. A small share of funds remained locked in so-called edge case contracts overseen by a group of curators. As Ethereum's price has risen sharply since then, those leftover holdings are now worth more roughly than $150 million that the DAO originally raised. Green said the fund will source about 70,500 ETH from the DAO's, quote, extra balance contract and 4,600 ETH from the Curator multi-signature wallet. Most of the Ethereum, about 70,000, will be... Oh, no, wait a minute. Hold on. I rounded that up, but this is actually a good number. Most of the Ethereum, about 69,420, will be staked to form a long-term endowment with staking rewards supporting security projects. A portion will remain liquid to address any outstanding claims. Funding decisions will be made through the community-driven mechanisms. And while the original organization was known as the DAO, the new initiative is stylized as the DAO, all one word, and the is capitalized. The 2016 DAO experiment collapsed after a flaw in its smart contracts allowed an attacker to siphon off about $60 million in Ethereum, prompting the network's hard fork and the creation of Ethereum Classic. The episode remains one of the network's most consequential crises. The new board of curators will include Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin, MetaMask security researcher Taylor Monahan, and ENS co-founder Alex Vandersand. Quote, I want to see Ethereum reach a point where people feel it's safer to store assets on Ethereum than in a bank, Green said. Well, no. This is like a snake eating its own tail. For those of you who don't remember, or rather don't, and some of you who just don't know what the hell happened in the early days of Ethereum, which basically launched in, I want to say it was like late 2014 or early 2015. One of the first things that they started talking about was decentralized autonomous organizations. And what that sort of was in the way that they were envisioning it was the ability to invest in certain companies with a group of people acting as an organization and sort of voting on which projects they would want to fund with this DAO fund. The decentralized autonomous organization had a whole bunch of this ether, and that's what he's proposing here. But what happened is they all voted to fund a project called Slockit, which was not a bad idea. Now, we've been doing shit like this on the Lightning Network for years, where basically you scan a QR code with your phone, it's got a Lightning wallet on it, and it transmits 50 cents, and all of a sudden the machine that you scan the QR code from starts pouring a beer. Okay, well, $5, not 50 cents. But Slockit was a door lock. And it was they were sort of thinking it was going to be like Airbnb, like something for Airbnb, where you could rent a house and you never had to do anything other than walk up to that house, scan a QR code on the lock, and if you were granted access permissions to that lock because you rented the house and already prepaid or whatever, then when you hit the button, that door would unlock for you. It was not a bad idea. And they had the technology. This isn't Slockit's fault. It was the hacker's fault. And even then, it's like, okay, well, you lost all the money. And that's where it should have stayed. Slockit should have said, oh, man, we got to go look for funding somewhere else. But that's not what happened. No. No. Everybody got on the phone, Vitalik Buterin and all his little buddies, and all the DAO guys, and they all have a little circle jerk on like text and phone and email and whatnot. And they're like, how are we going to fix this? And they decided to roll back the chain of Ethereum all the way to the block right before the hack occurred. Which meant that the Ethereum chain as it was now technically kind of a hard fork, right? It didn't change the consensus rules other than the fact that it did erase an entire amount of that ledger's history, which is what we're not supposed to be doing. So people that were running other Ethereum nodes at the time, it was people actually were able to run Ethereum nodes, and now you kind of can't unless you got a supercomputer. But at the time you could. They decided that no, that's not right. You should not be able to, a handful of people should not be able to roll back the chain and affect all of the transactions that had gone through since the DAO hack. All of them were reversed. Even if you had had nothing to do with the DAO hack, if you just spent your Ethereum or your Ether on something and it was after the DAO hack, and before the rollback, well, your transaction also got rolled back. And there were thousands, tens of thousands of transactions that basically didn't exist anymore. And those transactions had nothing to do with the DAO hack. Yet they fucked all those transactions because they were going to lose money in the DAO hack, and they had all the keys to the kingdom, so they rolled back the chain. And a whole group of other people said that they were running Ethereum nodes said, no, we're not going to do that. And they never rolled back their chain, so you have an effective hard split or a hard fork that we have Ethereum as it is now, and then you had what they named Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic, those coins are still stolen. That the person that stole those coins clearly has no longer any authority to move the coins on what's now the Ethereum 2.0 or whatever you want to call it. But he or she does have the authority to vector the coins on Ethereum Classic, and I still don't know whatever happened to the coins on Ethereum Classic. However, even a lot of that isn't the point. The point that you, as a group, a small group of people, can affect thousands of people's transactions because you don't want to lose money, that should be your alarm bell as to why all the Bitcoiners are going, no, this isn't going to happen. And there's been hacks not on the Bitcoin chain, right? And even Ethereum itself technically didn't get hacked. A smart contract got hacked, but the chain itself didn't get hacked. Same thing with Bitcoin. The chain has never been really hacked. You know, some things ancillary to Bitcoin have been, like exchanges. We didn't roll back the chain, although there was a massive hack. And CZ, at the time, the CEO of Binance, he was talking about how they had all the people in place to roll back the Bitcoin chain. Bullshit. I don't think he ever did, but the news was running with it, going, hey, we're just going to look how they're just going to roll back all these transactions. It never happened. In fact, it was CZ himself, like 24 hours later, after he announced that they were going to roll back the chain, said that they were not going to roll back the chain. So it's all confusing. But when it comes to Ethereum, it's not really all that confusing. They've done this shit before. They will do it again. And if you have any sense about you whatsoever, you would stay as far away from this stupid shit as you possibly ever could. Please consider the children. Specifically, your children. If you're in Ethereum, you've been losing your ass against Bitcoin for like literally 4.5 years now. Enough is enough. Sell it, buy Bitcoin. I'll see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.